and seeing the way you communicated with us. So really, I'm lucky. And my question is, you mentioned that it is very important for people who are deaf to have interpreters with them so that their words, their thoughts get communicated to people. So isn't it expensive for them to carry interpreters? I mean, not everyone can have interpreters. I mean, they are also paid. So how to battle this?
We're currently advocating for the same thing. We have appealed to the Ministry of Finance for the same, because not everybody can afford it. It really costs you. So the thing is, it is beneficial for the government as well, because it creates job opportunities, one. Second, it also helps the deaf sector. The only thing is, we're waiting for the nodal officer to do his job first, to get the numbers, how many interpreters do we need. And then once they have the pool for interpreters, it'll all be government sponsored, which will help deaf people. They won't have to pay from, they won't need to pay from their own pockets. But currently, for any government conferences, they take the charge. They take it upon themselves. They make the payment directly. They don't ask the deaf person to make the payment, which is, at least, it's progressing. But that's what we're waiting for now.
We have another question.
I don't have a question actually. I want to say that we do realize that, of course, you have a right to have interpreters. Presently, I am looking a case in the lower court at Srinagar, which is a case which is filed against the deaf and dumb people. I'm going to say, when I was assigned that case for the first time when I visited the court, since I was not knowing those people by their faces, it was so tough for me to, recognize as to who those people are, because they didn't have any facility of an interpreter at that very point of time. So I missed the date without, without knowing as to whether they were present, although they were present on that very particular date of hearing. And on the next date of hearing, when I visited that, I made an application to the court first that since I am finding it very tough, so the court is also finding it very tough in, having those people present. When they are present in the court, still they are being marked absent because they are not in a position to, they can't, hear the call when their case is taken up. So that application was ultimately, admitted by the judge, and though we did not had any, professional interpreter for them, but we could manage at least their friend who was in a position to communicate on their behalf. He now comes daily whenever their case is listed for hearing to the court, and that is how I am in a position to recognize those people, and that's how I'm in a position to, put their demand before the court itself. Thank you.
I would like to would like to know, may not be relevant to this particular topic, but what are the IT developments with regard to deaf people communicating with others and use of video conferencing and other IT technology in this, if you could tell us something about that.
One of the amazing technology development we've had is 3G on cell phone services and video conferencing like Skype you have, then you have OVO. These two have bridged a lot of communication gap across many states, and the only thing is we're also trying to get in VRS, it's called Video Relay Service, where basically video relay service is technology where you have a pool of interpreters. It's like call center basically, but sign language call center. So you have you call through video conferencing to your interpreter, and they dial up anybody you want to speak to, and whatever communication happens, they're signing simultaneously, and you get the information. So it helps. You don't have to travel. It's cost effective. And the only issue is that currently in India we have a slow internet, which is why VRS isn't ideal yet. This is very effective in a lot of countries like Japan. Then you have America as well, and I think maybe in another 2-3 years we would have VRS, and this will obviously create another set of job opportunities.
Hello, sir. Sir, my question would be, instead of having just interpreters, couldn't we have people or typists who would just type the letters on the computer, and the computer would translate it into the say the spoken language, and it would just give out those spoken words spoken, as it would make it audible. Oh, right.
Hi, my query is there any association in India? And plus, I had this thing in mind that as you completely look normal and fit, when I see you, I don't see that. But then there should be, like a badge or something, so that people are sensitive enough to understand that, okay, this person is deaf and he has this problem, and maybe someone who can interpret, not being a professional also, but then still he can interpret, so it can be helpful in the society. So I had these two queries. Is there any organization, and secondly, is there any provision of certain tools or a badge for the people to at least understand if you have this disability?
You said something about badges, to identify if the person is deaf or not.
Yeah, just to be,
For other people, basically,
yeah,
for the hearing society.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty demeaning, honestly.
No,
I understand your question. I understand from where it comes from. But you are labeling a person that, oh, he's deaf. But a deaf person is a lot more than just being a deaf person, right? So, when you talk about equality among hearing and deaf society, you see a person who has low vision. Would you want to label him? He carries around a badge.
I commented like that. I didn't mean that sense. What I meant was, many times what happens is we as I not being disabled, but then at times might happen that if I'm traveling in a local transport, I'm not aware that person next to me is disabled. And many times it happens like we are like I don't know if I make sense and how I
No, disability is it's something which is very much an evolving concept, and it's in the mind, right? So now I gave you an example when I was talking, and I just want to ask you, supposing you spoke a particular language, like you speak English, but supposing you were transported into the middle of Japan, right? How would you communicate? It's just a question. And if you were in the middle of Japan, would you actually want to be walking around with a badge labeling you as English speaking? So therefore, what I'm trying to say is that the analogy is the same. It doesn't really matter. I mean, whether you know a person next to you is deaf or not, whether you know whether they can speak English or not in an English-speaking environment, and whether they speak French, Japanese, or Taiwanese, it doesn't really matter. The point I'm trying to make is that at the end of the day, having a badge or doesn't having a badge is not material. What is material is that you should be able to communicate when you need to, when the need arises now. So, when the need arises, in any case, you're cognizant that the person is deaf.
Yeah.
So
what I meant to say was, it was in a different context, that the number of interpreters available in India are very less. So, if it was not in the manner of labeling someone, that or demeaning him, or his disability. So, if there's a badge, I can easily identify, okay, the person is deaf, and if I know sign language, if I can be of any help at that time.
You don't need to identify them through a badge. That's what I'm trying to address. I'm trying to address the fact that the whole idea that you would want to put a badge itself Why would you need to identify them through a badge? It's like take anything, take any other language. Sign language is a language like any other language. So if I'm standing amongst a crowd and I suddenly find that there is someone here who speaks Tamil, what am I going to do? I'm going to just raise up my voice and say, does anybody here understand Tamil? I don't understand what they are saying. And that is exactly what you would do in a situation where you have somebody who needs sign language. Why should it be any different simply because it's sign language and not Tamil or Japanese? That's what you would envision in a non-disabled scenario.
See, when you say about Tamil being the regional language, the sign language is the universal language. So if I understand what I'm trying to say. So if I am in America and if I'm there, but still I have a badge and the person communicates with me in the same language.
But he would have to communicate with you in the same language anyway, for the simple reason that no other language is accessible to you, na? So why would you need a badge? That's my point. The point is not the fact that you would communicate in an accessible language. The point is you don't need a badge to identify someone as disabled.
Ma'am, my question is the badge. But this sign language can be introduced at primary level, where children can learn this language. It can be a method of communicating with any person without any barrier.
Could we please have everybody's attention? Sorry to break the discussion.
I'll just answer his question and then we might close it.
Yeah, okay.
With reference to your question, if I'm not wrong, you said that you wanted sign languages to be introduced in primary school level, right?
So that everybody can learn.
In India, currently, earlier how deaf people were introduced, how they were taught was through oralism, through speaking method. That's what I'm getting at. So that is where the history lies. And currently, even the upcoming disabilities bill specifies the same, where it makes sure that the teachers who are teaching deaf children know sign language, and even at the mainstream schools where you have both deaf students and blind students, the teachers have sign language interpreters with them. So, where the hearing people can be educated as well if they want to. And a full education is given to deaf students as well. This is what we're aiming at. It hasn't been implemented yet, but definitely that is the idea. That is yeah.
Every child can see.
Yes.
He's going one step forward. He's saying that at the primary
In the curriculum,
class curriculum,
can it be
teach
just
sign language. Just like you teach English, Hindi, French, whatever.
No, sign language is like French, German. It is your choice to take the language. We will not impose that.
My question is it such a language can be introduced for